But even the word queer, again, labels make me a little bit nervous. To somebody say, well, I've decided that queer is a good word and you all fit into the category. But those labels are labels in my own head for me, not to say this is who you are, this is who we are, but just for me to have words to think about how to think about people or talk about them.
This is also another trap, the concept of queer. The queer agenda, or like queer sex affirmative, this obsession with sex affirmative behavior. I'm sorry, like I have people who aren't really into convincing you that sex is good. In fact, if you hate sex and you're afraid of sex, they get off on that. You know what I mean? Like, who knows what they're, I mean, I just know all kinds of like, I mean, I've seen crazy stuff. I've seen really crazy things, and I've seen people get off on the craziest stuff. And it's just, that's just is. Sex is. If you apply a judgment to it, then you're creating another thing. Oh, I'm queer and I believe sex is great and I think everyone should, it's like people who are really, really sexual, passionate beings, and then they get in a public forum where like their friends are like trying to get them to have sex with each other or whatever, or they like, expose themselves in like a sex affirmative way, and it turns them off. Something happens. Like they go, because they've grown up with this concept of hiding sex, and sex being a dark thing, sex being an intimate thing between two people, or maybe sex being strictly about domination and submission. And then they're turned off sexually because someone else's ideals about sexuality and pornography and public sex are like put on them.
Yeah.
And they're like, we don't understand. You're such a wild, ravenous, passionate person. Why are you turned off by us acknowledging that? It's because, well, sex isn't always about that, And again, we get into labels of queer and identity.
Well, tell me, what do you think are some of the roles within sex, or some of the ways, and porn can be included in this, but obviously it's much more than that, for effeminate gay men? What do you think?
Say that again?
So what do you think are some of the images or some of the
Bottoms.
some of the places where you see effeminate gay men within sex?
Busy and I have sex with people who have to have a role. Busy and I have sex with people who don't have to have a role. People who have to have a role, it's about
They can have it.
what they
can. They
right.
have it. I'll be the other person that you need me to be then.
Which is great. I mean, but even in the queer community, there are people who identify strictly with a role that they decided that they're the best at and they're perfecting. So it could be art.
Help us finish our first season. Donate at indiegogo.com/50Faggots.